Next, I'm proud to bring up my co-author on the Seasteading book, Joe Quirk.
That was great, Mike. That was a great opener for what I want to do. Patri Friedman and I are writing a book for Simon & Schuster designed to introduce seasteading to a mainstream audience. The goal is to bring more brains to this movement, attract more creativity to the astonishing potential inherent in a fluid frontier where citizens can move at will. John Chisholm and I are thinking about how to present this idea to a mainstream audience. I face this mainstream audience every day because I get asked the same question every day. So, Joe, what are you writing about these days? Seasteading. What the hell is sea to what? Well, floating cities on the sea, spiel, elevator pitch. But you'll destroy the environment. Explain. Isn't this for rich people only? Explain. What about pirates? Explain. Have you seen Waterworld? It's Waterworld! Finally, I'm like, why are we on the defensive here? We got to come straight out of the gate with our claims. Why are you seasteading? Ricardo Radulovich wants to feed the world with greenhouse gas. Neil Sims wants to feed the world with sashimi by reducing the acidity of the ocean. We plan to replace fossil fuels with kelp. The old land-based rules are preventing this from happening. The Green Revolution of Norman Borlaug, which saved 1 billion lives, is just a preliminary to the Blue Revolution of Patrick Tarahashi, who just took a picture of me. As seasteaders cultivate seaweed and algae farms that will pull carbon out of the ocean and the atmosphere, feed the world, and produce biofuel to replace fossil fuel, why not? Both are based on photosynthesis. Our old land-based rules are preventing this from happening. James Clement and his colleagues at Androcyte think that we're on the cusp of a medical revolution in biotechnology that's going to make Alzheimer's, heart disease, and stroke sound as archaic as cholera, whooping cough, and mumps. What's his goal? That today's toddlers will live to be 120. Our old land-based rules are preventing this from happening. Michael Strong, Patri Friedman, plan to jettison millions out of poverty with 1,000 floating Hong Kongs. Peter Way and Mark Jaffe plan to revolutionize the healthcare system with medical tourism, floating hospitals. Bill Reedy says that blue tech and blue jobs require seasteading. Why seastead? Cure diseases, clean the oceans, reduce carbon in the atmosphere, feed the world, power civilization, end poverty for millions. We want today's 20-year-olds to dance at the weddings of their great-grandchildren. Am I overstating things? The time from the Wright brothers' first 15-second flight to Neil Armstrong's happy dance on the moon is 66 years. You attract enough human brains to a new frontier, provide the forum for experimentation, the inherent genius of the human race is unleashed. Here's how I waste my mental energy with my friends. I say, I think poverty is reduced Hong Kong style by economic freedom, stable rule of law, low corruption. And my friend says, oh yeah? Well, I think poverty is best reduced Sweden style through benevolent, wise control by government. Well, let's ruin the dinner party arguing about this. Oh yeah? Well, I looked up something on Google that supports what I already believe. Oh yeah? Well, I Googled your previous Google, which cancels that Google. Oh yeah? Why have our wives left the room? It doesn't take long for me to say, you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Neither do you. The data is a Rorschach test that reveals our psychological aberrations. We are like Europeans in the 1700s. I think this king is divine. I think that king is divine. Let's have a war. Oh, jolly good. Who actually changed things? The wackos who went to the New World and tried a bunch of crazy stuff, 90% of which failed. The other 10% succeeded in ways The people who tried it didn't intend or predict. These successes interbred with each other in unforeseen ways, which started a revolution that caught on in other countries and changed the governments of the entire world. Nobody planned it. It emerged from the forum for experimentation. Our theories are meaningless because they occur in our deeply, deeply flawed brains. Our experiments are meaningful because they occur in reality. So many of my relatives outside Silicon Valley think that innovation flourished because so many smart people knew what the hell they were doing. Those of us who have spent time among these people know that innovation happened because so many weirdos were allowed to try their wacko ideas. Some of them are here today. Tens of thousands failed. Hundreds succeeded. And they all got to look around and say, I knew what I was doing all along. Innovation never occurs because some smart person won an argument. Innovation emerges when large numbers of people who have no idea what they're talking about are free to experiment with ideas in a cauldron of competition. The best sub-ideas merge with the best micro-hunches, rapidly accreting into an iPad that no particular person designed. Because life is so complex, human brains are not capable of foreseeing what's going to work. We're not even capable of knowing why something already worked. Innovation accretes through a process of trial and mostly error. Genius emerges from our collective cluelessness. Linus Pauling said, the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. Here's a guy who won 2 Nobel Prizes, implicitly admitting, I was just winging it, really. Benjamin Franklin participated in several major innovations in his day. He helped discover and control electricity, and he helped design the US Constitution. The control of electricity set off a cascade of innovations, driving almost every modern technology we can name. Yet the instrument of government he helped invent has not progressed. Consider that Franklin's many inventions have advanced beyond his wildest imaginings. The Franklin stove, bifocal glasses, refrigeration, the flexible urinary catheter, my favorite. Yet the methods of government he helped invent have not evolved. And why? Because inventors and entrepreneurs had the freedom to experiment with Franklin's technological ideas, but not his political ideas. More importantly, as Patri says, customers had power to choose among gadgets competing to please them, while citizens are captive to the political system they inherit. As Patri likes to say, if I don't like my portable digital device, I can switch to another one competing to please me. If I don't like my government, I have to win an election or a revolution. The founders of societies set up some of the rules by which their societies will develop, but they can't predict what will result from the iteration of those rules. Franklin and his buddies didn't know they were codifying rules for people who would be using cars and smartphones. From smoke signals to smartphones, from prokaryotes to people, the magic of number 1, experimental variation, and number 2, competition for selection, brings about magnificent things that seem sublimely designed to suit their niches. The magic recipe of evolution has not been allowed to work in the rules for governance because nobody gets to try anything new. There's no variation. 200 countries are like 200 petri dishes, and we're trying to make evolution happen by shouting at them. I remember writing my first novel on an Apple IIe, and it took me about 6 months to start complaining. I want to carry my computer around with me, but I want it to be cheaper. I want to talk to whoever I want, whenever I want, and I want instant access to every bit of human knowledge whenever I want it. How is that going to work? I don't care. Figure it out. And the market did. That's what I want political systems to do. I want to say, I want lots of free stuff, I don't want to be taxed, and I don't want debt passed on to my grandchildren. I don't know how the hell that's going to work. You figure it out, government, or I'm switching to your competitor. In forms of freewheeling competition, When humans dream up a desire, lots of other humans hustle to provide it. When governments float in a fluid environment where they have to compete for mobile citizens in houseboats, the slogan of every government will become, "Can I help you, sir?" Imagine hearing that at the DMV. Think about that 66 years between the first 15-second flight and a jig danced on the moon, between a computer the size of a building and a computer the size of a wallet. Every time, thank you for cueing that music, because it's starting to pick up now. Every time a little island of new rules is carved off from a bigger country, you get, within a generation, you get a Hong Kong or a Singapore or a Dubai. They're called special economic zones, or SEZs, essentially new countries. Figurative islands carved out kind of from China, United Arab Emirates, Malaysia. Kazakhstan is a great innovator. 12 years after economic free zones were established in a desert village of Dubai, property values increased 8,000%. Across the river from Hong Kong, Shenzhen lagged a bit behind. It took Shenzhen 15 years for property values to increase 8,000%. After 30 years, land values in Shenzhen increased 18,000%. In 1980, Shenzhen was not a bad place to be born poor. Millions of poor people knew it. That's why they moved there. Every time one of these pseudo-islands is created around new rules, they solve what seem like insurmountable problems with meteoric speed. What if we had more than just a handful? What if we had hundreds of thousands? The 200 or so nations are each constrained by obsolete rules. These countries are exploring only a tiny space of potential rule sets. Each serves as a kind of gated community, keeping out millions yearning to fulfill their potential. I wish I could show you the world map showing the percentage of people in each country who want to leave. Hundreds of millions of people want to leave their homes and find a place where they can unleash their dreams upon us. When I think about the potential of seasteading, I contemplate that map and think about all those souls longing for a better set of rules. Hong Kong and Dubai have no natural resources to speak of, and their astonishing success demonstrates there's no intrinsic reason why people in Zimbabwe should suffer so much more than people in Canada. The world is ready for what Patri calls a Cambrian explosion of governments. Many in this room are the children and grandchildren of the desperately poor, a lucky few who were permitted to be immigrants. We feel that agony in our family blood. Our old archaic systems designed before cars were invented are holding us back and preventing human flourishing. We rejoice in the potential that's just over the horizon, yet we mourn the lost potential not exploited in this power that was unleashed in just a few dozen places just decades ago. Feeding the world, saving the environment, eliminating poverty, curing disease, and creating spectacular technological wealth are all part of the same equation: experiments with new rules. If we open up the sea to 1,000 floating pottery dishes, one or two of them has got to work. And by work, I mean transform civilization as frontiers always do, over and over. If there had never been a new world, the tremendous sweep of representative democracies might never have been sparked, and we'd still be arguing about which king is better. If there had never been a Hong Kong, China might still be a closed-off, controlled market. If ancient Athens had not emerged from 1,000 independent city-states competing for citizens, I shudder to think what kind of world we'd have today. New worlds always reinvigorate the old worlds. Once I got infected with this perspective, I started thinking, what's the first baby step that makes a profit? How do we make the jump from, to medical tourism and then to ocean farming? Who's going to be remembered as the Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea of seasteading? Then I heard about Blue Seed, and it made me go, that's brilliant. I love the daring do of what Max, Dario, and Dan are doing. Listen to what comes next. It will blow you out of the water. Thanks for listening. Apply your skepticism to these claims. We need your creativity, and I admire you all so much. Thanks.